So this is Ghana's current situation. We have the up-to-date case count as of the last time we were updated, 23,463 confirmed cases. And this is indicative of the number of the active cases, 4,717 recoveries, 18,622, and only 129 fatalities. If you compare to other countries, we seem to be doing well, but it's the number of the incrementals that people are worried about, the positivity rate within a 7-day period. That's gotten many of the experts worried. As of the last case count, per the report, we had new cases, 641. It is indeed a reduction from the a little over 800 that had been witnessed the last two counts or the last two updates. But this is where we have to get the conversation going, because apart from the various associations of medical personnel and experts coming together for that press conference and then telling the country how serious the situation is and letting the public know that it looks like we're losing the fight against COVID-19, there is the added conversation about why we're recording a number of cases across schools, senior high schools, especially for now, because on the other hand, we do have the last years of junior high schools to prepare them for the West African Examination Council, BECE, who are also in school and at risk. We also do have third years or the last years of various universities also in school. And that's a concern that has been expressed by experts, by some of the spokespeople for the political parties, the minority, and even some of the health experts. So today we want to put all these matters into perspective. In doing that, we have to speak to the experts who have the know-how and the knowledge about the spread among groupings, population, demographics, etc. So we're going to speak to Dr. Kofi Amega, and he is an epidemiologist and also the head of Department of Clinical Nutrition, the UCC. Sabine Heresy, I'll ask her how to pronounce the right name. I've seen her nodding already, so I think I'm right. Sabine Heresy. How do you pronounce your surname?
Heresy. It's really French, but if it's more comfortable for you to say Heris, it's okay with me.
Okay, so Heris is nice. It's better.
It's nice.
Yeah, great. And then Isaac J. Hyde represents the National Union of Ghana Students. He is the boss there, the president. So Isaac, thanks again for joining us. Thanks again, Dr. Kofi Amega, for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I love the voice. Okay. But I know that we're laughing, but it's not a laughing matter, is it? Let me start first with you, Dr. Kofi Amega. What you have monitored over the last 1 week. We're not talking school matters. We're talking case count, positivity rate over a 7-day period. What does it tell you as a scientist?
Well, Roland, a very good morning to your viewers who have tuned in this morning to listen to us as we have this discourse on the COVID-19 situation in the country. It's worrying times, I have to admit, because the confirmed cases are increasing on a daily basis. I've listened to a few people, government people, and they talk about the fact that I think the last time you had an interview with the Deputy Minister of Health, he talks about the fact that because we have ramped up testing in the country, that is the reason why we are seeing a lot of cases, which is fine. I mean, that tells you that testing is really not an artifact, of the COVID-19. COVID-19 is not an artifact of the testing. But again, in recent times, I heard one of the seasoned epidemiologists in the country, Fred Binker, talk about the fact that if we really don't step up our game, we're going to hit 50,000 cases not too soon. So it is worrying times. The key question is that, are the mitigation measures not working? Well, it's something we interrogate as we get deeper into the show. So I think that would be my initial submission.
National Union of Ghana Students, Isaac, you are monitoring. Yeah, you are monitoring the cases as they travel through the schools. We have the formal announcement that is agreed with the Ghana Education Ministry of Health, and then as reporters, as journalists, we also have our sources about number of increases that is very much informal. And so there's what we can put out there and what we cannot put out there. But per what you have monitored, what does it tell you across the schools?
Well, thank you very much, and a good morning to your viewers. Well, I must say that the growing number of cases is a worrying trend, and we are only grateful or happy that at this stage we have not recorded any death, notwithstanding that even if one student falls, it's quite a problem to us and the parents as well. But it's a worrying trend, and we've noticed quite a number of challenges when we took a tour of one or two schools. Observing the protocols is becoming quite a challenge, and I think that we need to intensify our education across the campuses, but largely it's a worrying trend.
Sabine, and I want to call you by the first name because that's easier for me, but and because you are a child mental health counselor, and I believe on the psychological part, it will mean that we have to look at the objectives for which all these schools and the students have been recalled. They are supposed to be writing examinations. It means that they have to be in the right state of mind. Now, from the clinical point of view, how does the actions that happen outside the environment which they study tend to influence them psychologically or mentally?
Yes, good morning to you and all the JoyNews viewers. Thank you for having me. It's a very difficult situation for our students here in Ghana and their parents. Of course, the anxiety and the stress surrounding this COVID-19 crisis is affecting students, their ability to focus, stay on task, and perform to the maximum ability. So my role would be to assist students and their family and their parents to cope, to find ways, practical ways to cope with the crisis. We cannot change the environment, but there are ways to learn to relax, to see things in a relative way, and to be able to focus on our tasks. So what we do here at EAP, I'm with EAP Africa, what we do is train parents to assist their children during this difficult time.
But we do know that the student, and I'm still with you, Sabine, the students are supposed to learn and in an environment in which they can concentrate. In such times, what ideally should be the help? Let's say teachers on one hand, health personnel, the administrators on the other hand, and then the parents.
So the key things, and we're talking about high school students, right? Teenagers, is that correct?
That category, yes, for now.
So I think what is key is to listen, and for teachers, staff, everybody around these students to listen to the anxiety. Let them express what worries them. That makes a very big difference for us, for adults, to listen to these children and be honest with our assessment of the situation. They will have questions, they will have worries, and us as adults, our role is to be honest. We don't have all the answers. But I believe that just being present and acknowledging their anxiety, their stress, their worries makes a big difference. And that's the starting point, to acknowledge that there is discomfort, anxiety, and stress. I think that's the first start.
Yeah, Dr. Kofi Amega, you've been through secondary school in Ghana. You know that what Sabine is saying is that be talk doesn't happen. You can't even approach your... So how does it clinically make it difficult for students to navigate through these times, clinically?
You know what, Roland, let me first begin by providing some context for the rising cases in school. And I'm sure it's something that resonates with everybody who has been to a secondary school. You know what, in secondary schools, there's overcrowding. You know, the dormitories are overcrowded, assembly halls are overcrowded, classrooms are overcrowded. And to add to that, there is poor ventilation. These are conditions that enable the virus to thrive. You know, we talk about the nutritional status of school children is very poor. You go to the dining halls, what foods are they feeding them? You know, these foods are not nutritious, you know. And I mean, the last time I was on your show, I mentioned the fact that the president has always been admonishing us to have proper nutrition. And if you're in a secondary school, are you going to have an enhanced nutrition? I'm sorry, you know, it's not going to happen. You know, ignorance is also a key role in secondary schools and other educational institutions. When students have money as a result of their parents providing them with some little money to feed themselves, what do they spend the money on? On junks, you know, sweet, energy-dense foods that are non-nutritious, you know, poor hand-washing practices in schools because they don't have the infrastructure. How many schools have Veronica buckets? In my department here, we had to buy a Veronica bucket and put it here. But under normal circumstances, government will provide us with some Veronica bucket so that we can distribute them all around the university so that hand-washing facilities can be easily done. That's not to say the university is not doing. They are doing a lot by putting sanitizers and all those things around the places. So my university is doing well in that front, you know. Then again, in schools, management hardly pays attention to our health concerns. They don't. It's not something that is at the top of the agenda. Sorry to say that. You know, do they have vehicles that when we have severe cases, they can transport them easily? Do they have infirmaries? You go to these infirmaries, they don't even have the medical supplies, you know? So this is the context, you know? So not until we start to address some of these structural challenges, I'm afraid the cases might go up, you know, the cases might go up. But, you know, just to sum up, you know, there has to be a balancing act, you know, because the key question is that, can we say schools should not open? You know, the allegations that has been leveled against the government is fair in the sense that, you know, we need to open schools safely, you know, but opening schools safely means we need to balance this infrastructure I'm talking about and also the fact that there is always community spread. So how much is the virus spreading in the communities? So if the virus is spreading in the communities, then of course, students and staff are going to contract it and bring it to the schools. You know, so the key question, the allegation against government was that, why do you open schools when the case count was increasing? But as a parent, I myself, I want my children to go to school because it affects their mental health when they are at home. They need to go socialize, they need to go talk to friends, you know, they need to associate with their teachers, you know, and this is something they've been sitting at home for 3 months and they are missing. And the pediatricians and the child psychologists will tell you that it's affecting the mental health of some of the students. So, you know, it is a balancing act as to whether we got it right or wrong. Again, it's something we'll come to later in the show. Thank you.
Now, Isaac, the Ghana Education Service told us that they did due consultation. Were you also included? And if you were included, what were your views?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, we made a number of recommendations to the ministry that, and government that if schools are to be reopened, we expect to see a number of things, such as the provision of the Veronica buckets, the training of teachers, and other amenities. Yes, we were given a lot of these assurances, and we saw some of these things deployed. From the onset, my personal challenge from my perspective was that it is one thing having those things in place, and it's another thing ensuring that at every point in time, it has the content to serve the purpose for which it was put there. So, for instance, if you have a Veronica bucket at a vantage place and there's no water in it, if you have a container for a hand sanitizer and at a point in time, students have used this hand sanitizer and it's finished in there, how do you restock it? And this has been a challenge. But indeed, yes, we had several engagements with the relevant stakeholders. You cannot also put the issues out blatant on government because sometimes the institutions equally have a role to play here. I mean, sometimes people must be conscious, and I think that that's where our teachers have also lacked a bit, but also because perhaps if the training had really gone down there, it would have helped. But we also see a situation where most of the campuses, people rather shy away rather than intervene. And I think it's a national problem beyond COVID that we should be interested in, how we pay attention to our immediate issues. one of the things that we had requested as at the time schools were to be reopened was the need for students to be tested across the country. But as I speak to you, we are 1.2 million students. Our testing capacity has not even reached 400,000 since the country recorded the first case. And so it looked almost impossible as at that time to say that, yes, we need to test each and every student before schools are reopened. What we could make out of that thing was a gradual process, and also people being more vigilant. And so it's a collective responsibility where I believe that one way or the other, all the stakeholders involved in this have to a larger extent, failed on our part.
Mm. And Sabine Heresy, if you know how Africa is, we have a certain socio-cultural way of thinking and behavior. How does that, in all this, influence the behavior pattern of the student within within the context of all the things and the information that we've been churning around?
Well, of course, the cultural, landline of Ghana affects the way we behave. But my role is to help those children focus, those young people focus on what they can control. I agree with Dr. Kofi, there are a lot of challenges, practical challenges on campuses. But to help maintain and boost the mental wellness of these students, my role is to show them what they can control. They can, they can be taught to make the appropriate nutritional food guide before going to study. They can, be taught to have good sleep hygiene, spend enough hours to be able to be ready for learning, and also learn how to protect themselves when they are on campus. So there's small things that these students can be taught to do that they can feel that they can control, because there's many things that they cannot, as Dr. Kofi mentioned. Yes,
and who
yes.
And who should be doing that?
The mental health counselor, somebody like me, who would come and talk to and build relationship with the students.
But maybe you don't know Ghana mental health. We don't have them all. Well, in which school?
You don't have them.
Which school? We don't have them in Ghana schools.
So we need to encourage the government to look at the importance of mental health counselors in schools. EAP Africa is the first of its kind on the continent in West Africa and in Ghana, where we really focus on the mental wellness of not only children, parents, but also workers. I think there's, I've met many young people and parents. People are getting more open to the idea of mental wellness, and I'm not going to be discouraged. And I know that Ghana will eventually be open, and the Ghanaians will be open to looking at mental wellness and how it impacts their daily life and their happiness.
Yeah, it's a continuous conversation, isn't it? But Dr. Kofi Amegan, the reality is that the World Health Organization has observed, and you, the scientists, also have agreed that we have a young population, so they are more robust. Is that not it? So why should we be worried when we know these are the categories that are in the schools?
Roland, that's a very good question. Again, the last time I was here, I said I'm very skeptical about the pronouncement from WHO that, we are the next epicenter of the COVID-19. And it boils down to the fact that we have a young population, and over the years, we have been afflicted by infectious diseases, so we have built immunity. But we should be concerned. There is a lot about the disease that we don't know, and there's a lot that we know. And it's imperative that the guidelines, national guidelines, international guidelines, are influenced by what we know. I must admit that most of them are junk science. Scientists are also trying to cash in on COVID-19 so that overnight it become celebrity. Sorry to say that, But what is important is that, for high school children, secondary school children, they can transmit. They have much milder forms of the disease. You know, you don't see the severe cases among them as you see in the older population, and they have milder forms, but they can transmit. I mean, below 11 years, there's some slight evidence that is emerging that they cannot transmit. But again, what you need to understand is that these students have very close contact, unlike you and I, who are very careful where we go, where we sit. I mean, as you're in the studio now, you have your mask, you know. I'm in an enclosed office now, nobody coming in. And in front of my office, I've indicated boldly in black and white that if you don't have a nose mask, don't enter my office. You know, children are in close contact with people. So, of course, they can transmit the disease. Once they transmit, then they are also going to transmit in their homes. And then there's that community spread. So even though we have a younger population, which stems against the severity of infection, the transmission patterns and the viral prevalence, will go up. You know, so that's the unfortunate thing. So it's important that we try to stem transmission in the schools, you know.
Yeah, and that ultimately will mean, Isaac, the Ghana Education Service may have had a certain inclination that, look, we want to bring them in a very controlled environment. How did you agree with the authorities that the environment could be controlled? Because I'm thinking any typical campus is a controlled environment.
Yes, Roland, I think that
oh, your connection. I'm hoping that it can get better.
Raised an issue about congestion on the campus. That this particular each and every classroom was to have not more than 20 students, and of course, even in the dormitories, we need to space out. And so, given that it was only final year students who were permitted initially to be on the campus, it means that there was enough space to decongest the various dormitories. Put that aside, there was also the monitoring team. So there's a monitoring team that periodically will go through the campuses to be checking to see if indeed the schools are observing the relevant protocols. And so it is one thing having, the framework or the guidelines there, and it's another enforcing them. And so this is where the problem is, how we go about to ensure that indeed the schools are monitoring. Having said that, just like Doc said, when you are dealing with young children, you cannot necessarily control how they relate. In fact, even we as young guys, sometimes you are working with your colleagues and you tend to assume that by they being immediate close contacts, everybody is fine. So sometimes you tend to put your nose mask aside. In fact, if you go to the senior high schools, what we really realize is that sometimes they thought that, oh, this is somebody I share a common space with, we are fine, we are talking. People seem to forget themselves and not pay too much attention to the use of the nose mask and observe some of the relevant protocols. But education and sensitization is key in this arena, and in fact, including the management, the teachers, and the heads of schools themselves, because you see, that's where the psychological issue also comes in. Take what happened at KUST, for instance. You have a situation where a kid is suspected of having a case. I would expect that the students will be the ones running away for the teachers to, more or less come in as, not some form of machismo, but people who more or less understand the issues. Perhaps if they would have also, sort to administer some help to the students. But the teachers give the impression that they are free, and the students went ahead.
Well, we're having difficulty with your connection there.
Because they needed to help their colleagues. But if you understand, students understand the nature of the disease they have education, it would have helped. And that is what is lacking at this stage. And so there's no amount of monitoring or follow up to how students observe on campus. There's a collective responsibility on everybody's part. Because if I go uncontracted and I come to your space, you may have done the right thing. But if you do not get the sense that I may be a career. I mean, infectious.
Okay, but Sabine, we do understand that once we have young people and they have better robust bodies and can withstand the virus than we the adults, it means that the caution should rather be on the teachers and the other administrators. Of course, they have even counselors, only not clinical counselors, but in that respect, right? And how should they do that?
Well, I want to leave the medical advice to Dr. Kofi. Apparently, young people are less affected by this, or their symptoms are less severe than the symptoms of older people who get the COVID-19. But whether or not they're more susceptible, it's a very stressful environment for everybody, students, staff, teachers. And we cannot escape it in all school campuses. The situation is very challenging. Our role as adults is to protect these young people physically and also to protect their psyche, their mental wellness. And it's a very challenging thing for everybody. Not only we have to take care of the kids, but us adults, we must take care of ourselves as well. The healthcare workers, healthcare administrators, teachers, it's very stressful. So my role is to, if somebody calls me, is to show them how to do some self-care, relaxation. There's many techniques that you can learn to breathe and focus on the moment. But it's an extreme challenge for everybody, even for me, the counselor, to live in this time of COVID-19.
All right. Dr. Kofi Amaga, you are not only a scientist, you've been through the rudiments of Ghana's schooling, so you don't have a problem. Couldn't we have asked the students whether they are in the thousands of them? I'm told they are around 300,000 going to write BEC. Couldn't we have asked them to study at home and converge at their examination centers and go and write the examinations?
No, but before I answer that, let me add up to my sister Sabine's submission. You know, as I said, there is a lot we don't know about the disease. And you pose the question that these young people have very robust, systems, bodies, so they should be able to withstand the effect of the virus. Not necessary. There is also some evidence that suggests that the virus can have some devastating effects even after you have finished your course. You've been attacked and you have recovered. It could be mental, and even the stigmatization. In the schools, the moment they tell you that, oh, Kwame has COVID-19, it could be very traumatic. So even though they have the robust body systems that could withstand all the shocks, I think that shouldn't be the reason why we should allow the virus to fetter in the schools. But to come back to your question, can you remind me again, please?
Yes, it's about, could we have made a decision that, look, they should study at home for 2 months, 3 months, and go and write the exam at an examination center, socially distanced? It's a very simple thing.
You know what?
I'm asking this because there are students, there are parents who decide that my child will test WAEC second year and third year will test again. And they decide to choose which of the results they would want their children to be admitted to in schools.
That's interesting. I don't agree, even though I've been through the rudiments of the system, I don't agree. Learning at home is a very difficult experience. Brother, you and I know, every minute you are in the kitchen to pick something to eat, you want to go watch your show, you want to go watch other TV shows. So, you can't balance that with studies. No, not at all. It can't happen. When this thing started, the universities, my university and several other public universities, have been using the virtual education where we go online and teach the student. But for me, again, that is a pale shadow of the real thing. The challenges that we have, and I'm glad you have the biggest student union leader here, he will tell you, they themselves don't come online, our internet services are very poor, so it's not an effective mode of teaching. And you have to also understand that the virtual education is alien to our system. I have to admit, some of the universities have just started doing it because of the COVID-19. So overnight, we're not going to get there. So we need to get them to schools. in other jurisdictions, the students are in schools and they are managing the situation. So what I'm just trying to say is that it has to be a balancing act. So I don't agree that we could allow the students to be at home, read, learn, and go right. They will bomb. I mean, let me use this. Maybe that's not familiar term with Sabine, but that means there will be massive failure, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I'll advocate. But we need to look at balancing the equation such that we can have the children in school, the school kids in school, but also we can stem transmission of the virus.
Okay. Now, I'm just reading this from the BBC. And the BBC published this on June 20. And it says, effect of coronavirus on youth and women. And it enumerates that the effect is more mental than a strain on the body. Sabine, Dr. Kofi Amegan says that a balancing act. I don't understand that phrase. I'm thinking my children should be at home and study and then go, even though I know that it will be difficult. Now, if we want to be in the middle, balancing act, how do we go about this? Getting the students in school and making sure we prepare them for the objective why they are there.
It's a very challenging question to balance the need for education, for quality education, and the need to protect their physical health and their mental health. On the one side, keeping children at home affect their mental health in the way that they are not connected with their peers. They may not have the proper internet connections to be able to follow their class. So that would create a lot of distress, not being able to study, to complete their exams. But the other hand is sending them to school and exposing them to disease. So how do you balance that? This is the continuing discussion between the healthcare workers, the government, the education system. And I think every government on this planet right now has to balance these two options.
Yeah.
I wanted to add as well, Dr. Kofi mentioned the stigmatization. We have to, mental health counselors like me have to help those students who tested positive with being rejected, stigmatized by their peers, and maybe also the adults in their schools. Also, we have to think about those students who lost family members, loved ones to the disease. So grief has to be addressed. Their grief, the trauma associated with disease has to be addressed by a mental health counselor in different ways.
Yeah. Isaac, let me pose this, and this one was sent to me by lawyer, entrepreneur, and then broadcaster Samson Ladi Anyanini. And I'll read the whole thing to you, and then I'll pose a question. It says, by the EI, by the president, schools may open, of course, subject to following all the protocols, and students may return to school. Now, we do understand the GES has confirmed that students who for one reason or the other don't feel assured of protection in school can study on their own and only go to write the examinations. Now, it continues, though they are not encouraging too much of that, why not focus on online activity? There must be a reason the law doesn't compel reopening and returning to school. Isaac, answer this for me. You're a student leader, so I'm sure you can answer. There must be a reason the law doesn't compel reopening and returning to school, but we're having reopening being the order of the day by way of the policy direction.
I mean, Roland, this particular issue raised by lawyer Samson Ladi Anyanene had to do with the tertiary students. It's not for the senior high school students. And the case of the tertiary students, the reason why it wasn't necessarily compulsory for everybody to go to school was that prior to the new directive that schools can reopen, majority of the campuses had already started their final exams. In fact, in some instances, some of the schools were even done with their final examinations. So there wouldn't have been a need for people to go back to school when they were done writing their exams. Now, for those who have to go back to school, some were comfortable with the e-learning platform, or even if they were not comfortable, I mean, they had just found a way of adapting to it. Except that you also have genuine cases where people could not afford the data. People, by virtue of the remoteness of their area, could not have, easy access to the platform. And that is where the directive came that, okay, now schools should open so that those who for any of the challenges that they are experiencing, cannot afford to be on the e-learning platform to have their examinations or be in a classroom. They should move back to campus and finish their exams. So as I speak to you, just a small percentage of students even made it to campus, except for UCC, where they had not done much on the e-learning platform.
But Isaac, the reality is that the law is the law. It doesn't say it's peculiar to university. It's the law. It's across board.
It's the law, but its application. The issue about senior high school students, WASI is WASI. You cannot write WASI online. It was final year students of the tertiary institutions who had the alternative of using the e-learning system. That is why institutions which were done with the exams, which had students, even on my campus at GIMPA, for instance, there are instances where GIMPA did not allow their students to go back to campus. You could just finish your exams online. I know of UCC, students were asked to go back, come back to campus. If you go to Legon, for instance, not every student went back to campus. Those who had peculiar challenges and need to go back to campus, they have to go.
Yeah. Well, student leader. This your response is a student's leader's response. This your response is a student leader's response. It's very tinged with political response and then student leadership response.
No, I mean, Roland, what I'm saying is verifiable. What I'm saying is that this particular EI aspect that you spoke about was to final year students of the tertiary institution. And if you go to the WASI writing students, you cannot ask some of them to study in the house and ask some of them to come back to campus. It doesn't work like that. But for the tertiary institutions, they have alternatives. And I cited an example with UCC, where as at that time, per our engagement with the school and our representatives of the grounds, they didn't use the e-learning alternative. So all of them had to go back to campus. But if you go to Legon, if you go to Tech, there's a limited number of students went back to campus. I can say on authority that for the senior high school students, the e-learning option was not part of it. That is why timelines were given. You do a period about 6 weeks in the classroom, then commit the rest of the time to writing the final exam. So whatever I'm putting out here is verifiable.
No, don't worry. We have verified some. I know. Apart from Legon that had 3,000 students, the rest had 1,005 or so each. For good reason. So that's now. Let's get this round up. We're opening the phone lines. If you're a guardian, you're a parent, and you want to contribute, please make sure that you contribute as well. And the phone lines will be on your screens very soon. So they're on. But Dr. Kofi Amega, what should we be doing? The students need to go to school. You are saying that too much stay at home is affecting their mental faculties and their health. What should we be doing? What's the option left for us? Sabine, what's the option left for us? Well, the connection has been affected by wizards. Okay, Sabine, you're in. Okay, did you hear my question? Please unmute, Sabine.
Okay. Now, can you repeat your question, please?
So my question is, what are the options left for us? I mean, the students are already in school, and there's agitation outside school because of the concerns. What are the options left for us?
The options are to learn how to cope with the situation. We cannot change the environment. We cannot change the challenges, the practical challenges of overcrowding, lack of Veronica buckets, for example. So we must teach young people and the staff as well how to cope, relaxation, the proper way to interact with other people, finding support. So the examples of signs that detects mental health difficulties is problem sleeping, a sharp change in the behavior. I'm able to sleep. The appetite is sharply increasing or decreasing. Relationship conflicts that were not existent before, inability to focus and study and perform your daily activities. So these are signs that mental health is deteriorating, and this is a time to maybe contact a mental health counselor for support.
Yeah, you know your stuff. I see all these among my sons. Yeah, true. What is left for us, Isaac? Isaac? Kofi? Doc, are you online? No. Okay. All right, please make sure the phone lines are open. We have 03022116991 or 2.
Hello.
Yeah. Isaac, what are the options left for us?
Well, at this stage, I believe that we need to intensify our monitoring and evaluation. Of course, we also periodically, there's a need to also engage all the relevant stakeholders. But most importantly is the psychological aspect, not just for students who have been affected by this pandemic, but also in their preparation for the final exams. Institutions which have reported cases, there's a need for us to make psychologists available who will be interacting with the students so that at every point in time, they have the needed support. It's one thing losing a colleague, it's one thing being affected, and generally being affected with the exams at all. But many of the students will tell you that because of the nature of the situation, they are unable to study, they cannot study without having to be worried about somebody being stricken down by the disease. And so there's a need for us to intensify our engagement with the relevant stakeholders, even the teachers, because the teachers assume the responsibility of parents when the words are on campus. And so we need to put them in a better shape to deal with the challenges of students.
Yeah. Dr. Kofi Megan has changed position. Yeah, but that's good. What are the options left for us, Dr. Kofi Megan? Unmute.
I was just talking about internet connectivity and they just cut the power here. So now I'm connecting with my mobile hotspot. So forgive me, that's the reason why I was temporarily out of the studio.
That's
what
okay.
Are the options? So, I talk about the balancing act. So the options left for us is that we need to find a way to improve nutrition of school children whilst they are in school. This might seem very difficult, but shouldn't we look at having some dietitians employed on a part-time basis in the education offices so that they can manage, they can plan the diet of the students, so that we can have students having very improved nutrition in the schools. Besides that, too, we also need to look at having the infrastructure in place. And whilst having the infrastructure in place, we need to find a way to improve the practices of these students. We need to improve overcrowding in the schools as well. But you see, what is instructive to highlight is that, recently, now WHO has admitted that there is aerosol transmission of the virus. That means the virus now travels in air. There are tiny particles suspended in air, and then they can travel more than 6 feet away and can be very infectious. So that means overcrowding should be improved. We need to make sure that all the dormitories are well ventilated so that we can stem the viral transmission in the schools.
Yeah, please make sure you join us. No more the phone lines. We want to see you pictorially. Yeah, that's how we want to get your messages across. So please, meeting ID is on the screen. And then also we have the password. So the meeting ID 9781046289. And then we have the password as well, 4295. Please, when you join, get a good setting. We shouldn't have light and all that. Okay, not light behind you. So have a nice background, okay? Just like the way we see Sabine and Dr. Kofi. And
May I add something, Roland?
Yeah, oh no, that's okay. And then Isaac. But there's the other part that I want us to deal with quickly. And it's about the registration. The Electoral Commission yesterday announced that they are going to set up the registration points in the schools, second cycle schools, because some of the students have attained 18. So they have to register. Dr. Kofi Megan, how is that a problem to cabin spread or not cabin? I know you're smiling. You don't want to touch this. Apolitical.
I wish I don't comment on this.
No, don't worry.
I wish I don't comment.
This is a health. This is a health conversation. Don't worry.
You put me on the spot. You put me on the spot, Roland. Why do you do this? For me, this exercise, I don't know. Basically, I have to admit, we have just sacrificed politics for public health. I have to be very honest. I mean, I must say this clearly, because the evidence suggests that we are having rising cases, of COVID-19 in the communities, and one of the protocols that we need to cut back on the infection is social distance, hand washing. Are we able to social distance whilst we go to register? I'm not sure about that. We have the facilities where they wash their hands. I'm not sure about that. More importantly, we are touching surfaces. Even before WHO talked about aerosol transmission, we were talking about droplet transmission, where you cough, or you sneeze, there is saliva, there is mucus, and then they can get onto the surfaces. We are touching our faces and all those stuff. How do we sanitize all those biometric equipments before another person can? I'm not sure. So for me, what we're going to see is that very soon we'll hit 50,000 cases, as the learned professor said, Fred Binker said. And that is as a result of this registration exercise that is ongoing. I have to admit, I'm talking from the standpoint of a public health person, not as a politician. I have to make that disclaimer.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's good when you don't want to be tagged politically. So you're out. You are not political. So Dr. Kofi Amega, I'm recusing you from any perceived blame. So don't worry. Dr. Sabin, how do we go about this? Look, we have registration going to go on. So Charlie, the reality has to be established.
Yes, I think there's a way to educate and find ways to process with registration, with social distancing. There are many, I think the administrators have to be creative, maybe set up appointments, and so that not everybody comes at the same time, but everybody must be disciplined for this kind of process to be useful and effective.
Yeah, I know how it goes, right? All right. Thank you for your assistance as well. And Isaac, I saw you smiling, so it means you are in for it. Registration on campus, no problem. You're smiling. I just caught you there.
Don't put me on the spotlight like that. Let me first of all say that before I answer your question, NUG is an apolitical organization, and so I don't want my words here to be taken out of context. Secondly, your question is not about whether or not I support the registration or not.
Not at all.
The question was straight up as to whether, the position of NUG regarding going to the campuses to register. I think, first of all, we must understand that when schools reopened, we said that those in boarding houses, those coming from home and are in schools which are boarding houses should move to campus. There was a reason for that. We didn't want people to go and mingle outside and come and more or less pose a threat to those who have been confined to the campus. And so, having used that as a base, I would say that if the EC are taking a decision which more or less prevents the students from going to join those outside to register, then I think that is a good thing. It's a civic responsibility on the part of students, those who have met the criteria for registration, and it's a good thing for each and every Ghanaian to be part of the decision-making process, especially with the youth whose destiny or future is tied to the decisions we make today. So for us, it's a good thing.
All right. Now let me get on to the Zoom. I have a lot of look. This is open commentary time on this subject, and I have a number of you joining me. So I'm seeing your names. I'm closer to the screen now, so it's easier today. Yeah, I can see some people behind their curtains. Please let the background be nice. We don't want light behind your behind you. No light. If you have light behind you, I won't call you. Okay, I have seen some nurses joining. Okay, oh, that's good. Health workers. I think I'll call them first. Okay, they are now connecting. Okay, but Alhaji Ishaq, that's your name on Zoom. Alhaji Ishaq. Please, let me hear from you, Alhaji.
Hello, good morning, Roland.
Yeah, please ask our panelists any question. We have Sabine Harris and then Kofi Megan, who is Dr. Kofi Megan. Isaac J. Hyde is president of the National Union of Ghana Students. And Sabine works with AFP Africa and then also is a mental health expert. Please reduce the volume on your set. All of you, reduce the volume on your set. Alhaji, do that.
Please, can you hear me? Is it clear now?
I can always hear you. Please reduce the volume on your set. Turn it off.
Very well. I'm nowhere near my TV. As a matter of fact, I'm linking with a phone.
All of you, reduce the volume on your set, please. All of you,
Roland,
stop.
Can I proceed now?
Yes, Alhaji, proceed. Alhaji, proceed.
Very well. I send special greetings to Dr. Kofi Mega. He taught me nutrition at the University of Cape Coast.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now, to my concern, it will be a mixture of a question and a contribution.
Thank you.
Please unmute, Alhaji. I call the next person.
Okay, Roland. Good morning.
Hey, how many Alhajis are here? Ghazali, please wait. Ghazali, please wait. Okay, let me go to Baka, Devotion Baka, the health workers, those wearing the face masks, the health workers. Please unmute and let me hear from you, health workers. Baka, Devotion Baka, yeah.
The risk profiling.
Oh, sorry, we have to take Alhaji out, so we'll take him out. Devotion Baka, can you hear me? Please add your sound, dial the sound or call the audio. There's a feature on, we can, okay. Jerry Ankra, please unmute. And
Yeah, I'm here with you, please.
Okay, please go ahead. Ask our
Right,
experts
so,
anything or contribute, yes.
Very well. I'd like to thank you guys very much for giving us the opportunity to come through. So mine would be in a form of a question, posing it to all of us. So as the question has been trending, I'd like to find out if our leaders really take into perspective the public health with regards to saving lives over livelihoods. I want to know what the plan is now, because trying to put both of these things together, I think we are failing. We are putting everything on board and the numbers are increasing. And I don't know whether we are taking things out of perspective or within perspective, because what I want us to find out, are we prioritizing lives over livelihoods or livelihoods over lives? So that's the question I'd like to pose to
this question. All my panelists are apolitical. Isaac says he's apolitical. Dr. Kofi Megan is apolitical on this platform. Sabine too is. Okay, so Patrick, unmute and go ahead.
Roland, good morning.
Good morning, Patrick.
Yes, mine is basically a question to the education minister.
Oh,
he thinks
he's not on the panel. He's not on the panel. Education minister is on the panel. Please change your question.
Yeah, basically, I think that our kids are not safe in the schools. You see, all the protocols that they have discussed, they have talked about it nicely. But if you go down there, that is not the case. I have a boy in one of the schools. And what they are telling us on radio, the ministers and all the people, it's not correct. Nothing is happening at the schools. So for me, I think that the kids being in the school is not in our interest as the parents, but at times you have no option. They are saying you should send them. So please, let the government understand. What they are telling us is existing in the schools. It's not going on. Okay. And the voting, the registration in the schools, who don't like it, is good. But can they follow the protocols? I don't think they can follow the protocols. Even the ministries are not following the protocols. How much less the schools? So I think that voting, that registration in the schools, they should think about it. Thank you very much.
I just don't know whether my panelists will want to touch the political issues. But Alhaji Ishaq, is your internet still bad? Unmute and talk to me and let me see. No. The health. Okay, Sir Trinity, unmute and talk.
Good morning, Roland.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, I have some few concerns regarding the registration of the students on campuses. I want to
I'm
know
hoping it's a question. I'm hoping it's a question, not a concern. A question. Please pose a question.
Yes. So the question I want to ask is, why are parents not being allowed to visit their children on campuses, whilst the EC is asking party agents to take part in the registration of these same students? I don't seem to understand that one, because if parents can't visit their kids because of the fear of infecting the kids, then why should party agents and EC officials who have not been tested be allowed to visit these same students? It kind of beats my imagination.
Okay.
Why is that being allowed to happen?
Well, point made. Dr. Kofi Amega, let me start with you. Then I'll go to Sabine, and then I'll go to Jay Hyde. Yeah. Dr. Kofi Amega, can you respond to the first two?
The first two was on which one? Can you remind me, please?
So the first said they are concerned. I think it's more like the mental. The cases are rising. So Jerry is concerned, and then the second one is about the registration is ongoing in the schools, but parents are not supposed to visit. So why do we have registration ongoing, but electoral commission officials are supposed to go to the schools and do register? So
you know what? I think I totally agree with that policy that parents should not be going to the schools. You know, all this is an effort in trying to prevent overcrowding in schools or preventing spread in schools. Because whoever is coming from home, we don't know their status, their COVID-19 status. So they go there, is close contact, and you don't know what they have transmitted to their ward or kid. And then they can also subsequently pass it on to allow parents into school. There should be a window where that is done, and so that we cut back on these things. But I think what is also very important, and it ties up nicely with the question, is that we should find a way of ramping up testing in the schools. You know, if we're going to keep the children in schools, then, I mean, from time to time, we need to test them for COVID-19, because, you know, whether we like it or not, the moment you do a test, you identify a case, you cut back on the transmission chain. You know, so that is something that we should also be doing. So sorry to disappoint your listener that I don't agree that parents should go. In terms of history of officials who have not been tested and they are in schools, that one, as you have already indicated, we are apolitical, and I don't want to comment on that.
So please, the health workers, go out and rejoin. Devotion Baka, please go out and rejoin. We want to hear from you, the health workers. I think we're interested. Go out and rejoin. We're having difficulty with your audio. We have your video, but we can't get your audio. Sabine.
Yes, I do understand the concern of parents who would like to go on campus. All parents are anxious, worried. They are wondering if they're making the choice sending their school. What I can say is, if there's an increased amount of anxiety and worry and distress, us at EAP Africa, we are one phone call away. Counseling service is 24/7. And I'm going to give you, if you will, the EAP Africa 020-188-8440. Let me repeat it. 020-188-8440.
All right.
So this is EAP Africa we provide 24/7, 24/7 counseling services, me and the team, for parents, students, and staff who feel the pressures of the work, study, of the family lives.
Isaac, Your response to the question so far. Unmute, Isaac.
Sorry, I stand with Dr. Kofi Amega on this particular matter. The fact that, allowing parents to come and visit the ward is like one that's posing a threat to all of them. If you cannot tell sometimes, especially the asymptomatic ones, who has the virus, and if you end up creating a super spreader on campus, one person can end up infecting everybody. So I think that is in the interest of everybody that parents are not allowed to come and visit their wards. Having said that, I think that the gentleman did not just limit it to parents. His concern was that why are we allowing the EC untested personnel to go into the campus if parents are not being allowed? I think that it is also imperative that we ensure that people who are going into the campuses to, register the students are having cleared to fear of the virus.
Okay, okay. George Kwaku. Please talk. Okay. George didn't join with his sound. George, can you hear me? No, you cannot. Okay, Alhaji Ishaq.
Okay, Roland.
Yeah, I can.
Roland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me add in a little bit. Maybe I'll talk as...
It's your internet. Your internet is very bad.
I practice medicine as well. And I have this level that I've already talked about, that they're already in school, the risk is high. How do we manage the risk? Right. It is true that among the various cohorts, the sections that are in school will pose the minimal as compared to Dr.
Well,
beautifully.
Well, we have a very bad audio.
Affection.
Right. Well, thank you all of you. Dr. Kofi Amega, Sabine Heresy with AFP Africa, and then also Isaac J. Hyde is the president for the the National Union of Ghana Students. I have to be more appropriate. But look, thank you all of you for your time, and it's always worth it educating Ghanaians and deepening our conversation. Sabine, Kofi, and then Isaac. All of you have a great day. And the rest of you join in. Sorry we couldn't take all of you, but we appreciate you. Okay?